Alright, hello folks. This is the Steam Linux User Group podcast, Season 4, Episode 11, on the 27th of May, 2016. I'm Jane, and with me are Hero and Nemoder. What have we been playing lately?
Hero?
I have been playing a lot of Dota 2, including a few days in a row of a nice loss streak, which was great and amazing until we broke it, and then sad. Also with lots of sarcasm. And then I was playing Shadowin, which is a new game that we'll be talking about later, and also really awesome, and I guess I will delay this conversation until then. How about you, Nemoder? What have you been playing?
Well, been losing in Dota 2 along with you.
Yay.
I think we are definitely getting better. It's definitely not a game that you can just jump right into. It takes some time to get the mechanics down, so I don't think we're going to make the international, but hey, it's still fun.
And I think we should clarify that we're not total noobs. We're just...
Speak for yourself.
losing a lot.
Yeah, well.
We're just mostly noobs and losing a lot, I don't know. Anyway, what else have you played?
A bit of 7 Days to Die. They've been updating it. It's been kind of buggy off and on. There's a few workarounds for some problems, but it's still a fun game. I'm looking forward to that stabilizing a little bit. Played a little bit of Windward, which is really kind of a nice game, relaxing. It's not got as much depth as I had hoped with the whole trading system and everything, but still kind of fun to play. And of course, we did our Guns of Icarus online, and that was good. They've added a new mode for that. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
What have you been playing, Dora?
Alright, I have been playing mostly Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor and Tomb Raider, both of which were fairly recently ported by Pharaoh. They're not new games to me, but I've been really impressed with the performance on Linux. I've been getting it actually about as good as it was when I was playing on Windows, so I'm fairly impressed. But then I have a hardware profile that is friendly to that. So,
do you think that's mostly like driver updates, or just the game updates, or what?
The fact that it's faster for me on Linux than Windows?
Yeah.
If I had to blame one particular thing, I would say that it is the bug with Windows 10 right now that messes with disk writing and slows down all your writes.
Yeah. Well, still good to know that the performance is still on par.
Yeah, that's definitely cool.
But driver updates have also been helping my graphics card a lot. It's 4 years old, kind of mid-range NVIDIA card.
Yeah.
With that, I guess we can move on to the community stuff. We had some fun events in the past month. Either of you involved in them?
Yes. To start off the last fortnight, on May 13th we had Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which I unfortunately did not attend because I convinced a bunch of people to play Arma 3 with me during the free weekend at that time. So...
Ooh, scheduling conflict.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad for that. But it was great fun playing. A lot of that was with Dorito, who does not own the game, and he was able to experience it. So, that was cool.
And I'm sure we'll do more Counter-Strike events, so it's okay.
Oh yes, of course. But the following day, on the 14th, we played Don't Starve Together.
Yeah, I'm sad I missed that one. I think I was out of town, but it looked like a fun game. I was like playing that one.
It would have been so much better with you two, because a lot of us, and there were actually quite a few people there, but many of us were a bit newer to the game, and the few that weren't were having difficulty keeping us all alive. And we...
Did you starve?
No, there's not so much starving, mostly just getting murdered by animals.
Yeah.
And then everybody going insane because of that, so eventually I figured out how to restart the server, so that we started at day 1 and all that, which helped a little bit, but then some of the enthusiasm was lost. Still, it was fun. In that game, you're expected to die a lot, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting when there's a lot of us who are just kind of running around like, what do I do? What do I do?
No, I don't own Mountain Blade Warband, but you guys said you were playing that. I guess I watched some of your stream for a while. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, so we were playing Mountain Blade Warband on the 20th, and we were just playing multiplayer, mostly the Conquest game type, which is basically there's flags throughout the map, and each team is trying to stand near them to capture them, after which the points for the enemy team will tick away. So, hold the flags, basically, hold the points. And Mountain Blade is always so cool to me because it's just such a different way of having the more medieval style of combat.
I think it's a little more realistic than some other games.
Yeah, definitely.
Including horses spawning on top of buildings.
Yeah, that was funny. It's always a little bit ridiculous, but it was definitely fun. We had more people than I expected. There were some people who I don't remember ever seeing attending our events before, so that was cool.
That's always good.
And we just joined a public server. We had some issues joining one that one of us was hosting.
That was a server issue, or just the client not seeing it, or what?
I'm not quite sure what it was. I think it may have been a routing issue. But it didn't appear on the public server list, and so we decided to just join another one. But it was fun, and we played for a long time too.
Yeah, I guess we joined in the Grid Autosport on the 21st. That was kind of fun. It was a little frustrating for me. It took me like an hour to figure out why my Steam controller stopped working, but another one of those UDEV rules that something changed and overrode it.
Yeah, that I also had the Steam controller issue, but I had a standby controller, so use that instead. And actually, I have since figured out my issue with the Steam controller, and it was in fact a UDEV rule problem.
Yeah, it seems strange that they just can't seem to get that right. I don't know if that's, a problem with the distribution or what, but...
In that case, for me, I think it was a different issue than what you had. It was a conflict between two different UDEV rules, so I just changed the load priority for the Steam controller one, and then it worked.
Oh, okay.
Which I can't really blame anyone else for. It was probably my fault. But, yeah, that's fun. Grid Autosport, we, for a long time, were playing that like crazy. So...
Yeah, it'd been a while.
Yeah, it was nice to go back into that. Not as many people as our previous Grid Autosport events, but still, it was fun. As for upcoming events, after this cast, we will have No More Room in Hell, and then tomorrow, on the 28th, we will be playing Speedrunners. In other news within the SteamLUG community, we have updated the SteamLUG.org website with a bunch of changes that we had staged. This includes an update to the server list to make it support Windward. So now our one, or actually I think we have more than one, I think our 2 UK Windward servers appear in the server list, which have been hosted for a little bit, but were not appearing on the website yet. So now that update is in, more servers will appear there. I believe there were some other improvements, mostly small cosmetic things.
Yeah, it was nice to see that stuff getting fixed.
So Counter-Strike Global Offensive has been updated to have a 64-bit client for Mac and Linux. This has fixed some seemingly random crashes that people may have experienced before, and also introduced some new bugs. The bigger ones have already been fixed, but there may be some smaller, mostly UI-related bugs still in this update. It didn't really seem like it was anything that broke the game, so this seems to be good overall, and of course they're going to continue to improve it.
Yeah, it's nice to see some of the newer games moving to 64-bit. I can't imagine too many of the really old ones will, but hopefully going forward most of them will be.
Yeah, well, Valve is known to continue to support a lot of their games, so it's not that surprising, but it's still really cool. They've also added a beta for Vulkan support in Dota 2. So you can opt into this by downloading the DLC, and you have to download it from the DLC tab in Steam. Once you install it, you can launch the game with the -Vulkan flag, and then it works, assuming you have the hardware and the drivers. And I tested this out. There was a little bit of flickering, just the screen would flash black for a frame or so, which didn't really bother me too much, and then it crashed. So this is another thing that they are still working on, but it is nice to have the Vulkan renderer now. Besides that crash and the little bit of flickering, it seemed to work really well for me.
Yeah, I've not tried the Vulkan render yet. I'm going to wait for the drivers to come a little more long-term stable.
Yeah, you don't like the short-lived branch, right?
Yeah, if I can avoid it, I prefer not to use it unless something's horribly broken.
This is actually the first game I got to work with Vulkan. Before, when I tried the Talos principle, it did not work, which I didn't try very hard, but I assume it had something to do with windowing, because I use a tiling window manager. And since many people were able to get it to work, that's what I think caused the issue, but I didn't look much into it. So I was kind of surprised when it worked so easily here. I had to look a little deeper to find if there was some evidence that it was actually working, but the flickering and the crash confirmed it for me anyway.
Yeah, well, hopefully with some of those issues getting worked out, Vulkan will start to take off a little more in the bigger engines.
It is exciting, and if you compare adoption of Vulkan to DirectX 12, which, not that I've been following it very closely, so I could be wrong, but it seems like it's pretty quick considering how new the API is.
Yeah, and I guess a big issue is just taking a lot of load off the CPU for dealing with some of that stuff, rendering stuff.
Right, and of course, if you have Source 2 as an engine that many developers are using, and it already has Vulkan support, then there can be huge advantages down the line in the future.
Yeah. Well, there's been a few benchmarks posted, I think, with Dota 2, and some were saying, like, at the really high resolutions it doesn't perform as well, but I don't know if that's driver bug or settings bug. It's still kind of really hard to tell that stuff.
Right.
Although I don't see myself playing Dota 2 at 4K resolution anytime soon, so I'm sure some people do.
Meanwhile, in tech news, the new wine staging 1.9.10 re-enables the CSMT patches. You can re-enable them in WineCFG if you have it installed, and they give a decent performance boost. I tried it in Skyrim, and I am pretty satisfied with it.
Nice.
So CSMT is part of the DirectX stuff, or what is that? This
is a specific patch set that was really popular with Wine. It greatly increased the performance, partially through multi-threading, I believe. But
yeah, that's what the MT stands for.
Right.
Oh, okay. Command stream thing. Yeah, I get it.
But as they're starting to upstream it, they disabled it from wine staging because of conflicts there. But this was pretty quickly after that they re-enabled it. I guess they worked out the conflicts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine any kind of threading improvement is going to make a huge difference on newer machines.
It gave me weird issues with the shadows in Skyrim, but I'm sure that could be fixed with my own settings.
Elsewhere in tech news, CryEngine is now available on GitHub, the full source release. So this is not under any sort of open source license, to be clear. And actually their license has some crazy restrictions in it. It's kind of amusing to read. But anybody that's interested in developing with CryEngine or possibly adding Linux support, this is a good way to access it.
So for CryEngine, is that like including any game modes with it, or is it just like a bare bones engine, or what's in the release?
I believe it's the full editor for CryEngine.
Oh, okay.
It still at the moment does not have Linux support as far as I know, but people were working on it. In any case, the engine can export to Linux, but at the moment the editor does not run natively on Linux. I wonder if maybe it would work in Wine, but I feel like this can only help the people who are interested in porting the editor to Linux.
Yeah. So I hear Vive support is working to some degree.
Yes. I don't know if I'd say it like that. But some Linux users, including Cheeseness from our community, were able to get the HTC Vive kind of working using the Hello VR example that's included in the OpenVR SDK. That was a lot of VR. Anyway, so it kind of works. This kind of confirmed my suspicion that what existed in SteamVR could partially work in Linux. It's just that nobody really tried it that much until recently. So this is pretty exciting. Convinced me to buy mine, which I now have sitting right next to me. I got it yesterday.
Very nice.
I've not yet been able to reproduce this.
But I mean, how far have they taken? They've connected it and it responds to Steam, but I guess there's no real native games yet for it.
Right. So at the moment, you do have to manually build, or at least obtain, the library they distribute with the OpenVR API you can get on GitHub. Actually, I discovered that the latest version does not work with this, so you have to downgrade to an older version. But after you do that, you can install this library or just move it into the folder so that it loads it. And then you can start the VR server, after you have that, which is the thing that actually communicates to the application, like all the information that is needed. The VR server is part of SteamVR that's distributed with Steam when you install it. Once that is done, you can build a sample application and it'll work. Anything would technically work if it's using the API correctly. It's just that no developers right now are building for it because it's not ready and it's not officially supported. So
yeah, it was pretty discouraging to see that they kind of shoved Linux off to the side for a bit on that, but knowing that the groundwork is there and that you're able to connect it and do stuff with it means that they are thinking of that for the future anyway.
Right, and I know that some people were even able to get the compositor working, which was before, like later last year, the compositor was not working. The VR compositor basically allows for the overlays that SteamVR has. For example, Chaperone, which shows a wall when you're reaching the edge of your space. So it's trying to tell you don't walk any further, you're going to walk into your desk or your wall or whatever.
Yeah.
So before that did not work in Linux, but it seems like some people were able to get it partially working now. So that is cool, and it's encouraging that that stuff does work and the Vive drivers for Linux are functional, but it's certainly not ready yet.
How do you feel about the actual hardware?
Oh, the hardware's cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, because I've not yet gotten that stuff working, I couldn't actually do anything in VR, so I have no test of the tracking. But I was impressed, even with how much I've been following all this stuff. It's so cool to just load up an image that's properly distorted already, and put it on to the HMD, and you have access to the screen and the audio devices on it, so you can at least use that. So display this image on there, put it on, and even though you can't look around or anything, it's so cool. And having it fill up your entire vision and stereoscopic just gives you the sense that you're like looking through a window. It's different from looking at a screen, you know?
Yeah. Well, looking forward to the day when that's something that's a little more usable.
Yeah, it is exciting stuff, and nobody should really be rushing out to buy it now. I've got mine mostly for interest in possibly trying to develop stuff, but it is something to look forward to, and I'm very excited.
So in gaming news, Hero, you mentioned that you were trying Shadowin?
Yes, Shadowin is very cool. So this is a stealth game by Frozen Byte, who are the developers of the Trine series, and really interesting. In many ways it feels pretty unique. For example, if you're not moving, time stops, so you have time to just look around and assess the situation. Shadowin, the main character, can easily sneak around everyone, and you could just like run to the end, except the doors you need to get through have 2 levers. You can't pull them by yourself, you have to pull them at the same time. And you have an orphan that's with you, who's following you, that'll help you pull the levers, except she's not as agile. Basically
just trying to help her get from one side of the level to the other.
Yeah, it essentially turns into an escort mission, but without the bad connotations of that. You have a choice to either distract the guards or kill the guards so that she can get past. And she'll basically just keep progressing and hide in places that she can. She'll like hide in a bush or around a corner until the coast is clear. Then she'll go. And if you want to, you can just point somewhere and press a button. She'll go there if she can without being detected. But for the most part, you can just either distract them, make them turn around, or whatever. You have a grappling hook, which is very similar to the way it works in Trine 3, where there's rope physics. You can grab a box and wrap the rope around a pole and run away, and the box will like slam against the pole.
But unlike Trine, it's like fully, like the camera will follow you everywhere. It doesn't just track.
Right, the camera is like over the shoulder style.
Yeah.
And you can rotate it freely, but it's centered on yourself as opposed to having the scenes that Trine 3 has where the camera moves to a certain point and then kind of follows you through there and then goes to the next area.
On a reel, yeah. It kind of made sense for Trine, but yeah, it would be awkward for this kind of game.
Yeah, this game is a totally different style in that case, but the rope mechanics are definitely familiar if you played Trine 3. So it's cool, you can be on some rafters and grab a barrel and then jump down from the rafters, making the barrel fly up to them. You know, of course the barrel will be a little heavier, so it's not just you'd have to jump with some force to make it rise, but it's pretty awesome the stuff you can do, and I really enjoy any sort of game that gives you the choice to either kill someone or not, because I've gone through the entire game without like touching a guard.
Yeah, it's cool. Stealth game's definitely not for me, but I'm glad that people are enjoying them.
Another cool thing is the story is mostly told through the guards talking to each other. So you get this sense of what's happening in the world because you're walking past and the guards are talking about, like, hey, did you hear what happened at this place? And that's interesting. In addition, Shadowwind is available on Steam, Humble, and GOG, so if you want DRM free versions, there are a couple options. And the release also came with a level editor and workshop support, which I was not expecting. Another recent release has been Omnibus, which is sort of a ridiculous, almost like Crazy Taxi, except more destructive and stunty, I would say. But it looks pretty crazy, and just came out. You're driving a bus around, you can like smash through buildings and jump off ramps and things like that. Not really sure what the objective is, but it looks fun. So that's Omnibus. And it's too bad that Corbin isn't here to talk about this game. Duskers has left early access. There's derelict ships in space, and you're controlling a drone that's exploring them. I've heard some people say the ships are all shut down and there's like aliens roaming around and stuff like that. But some people have said that it really feels like you're controlling these robots, like you're at a computer terminal controlling them, because of the way the interface is, stuff like that. And that it's sort of dark and creepy in its aesthetic, and some people have compared that in some ways to Alien, being on these empty ships alone with these monsters roaming around.
Overall, still more a puzzle game, I guess.
Yeah. So this is from Misfit Antics, which are the same developers who made A Virus Named Tom, which explains the puzzle elements, which that game was ported by Flivent. This one, though, uses the Unity engine, so it's had Linux port from the beginning, and did not require any special porting, as far as I know, and is also available on both Humble and GOG, as well as Steam, and directly from their website.
Feral recently released Formula 1 2015 for Linux. I'm kind of crazy about their ports right now, so I might pick it up if I can.
Somebody said that uses the same engine as Grid Autosport. Is that true?
I have heard people say that before, and I'm not sure how similar it is, but it wouldn't be surprising. It is from Codemasters.
Obviously a very different theme of the, what you're racing, but
yeah,
as far as physics and everything go, yeah.
Too bad one can't just Google Formula 1 engine and find anything like that.
There's a lot of secrets there.
Maybe.
Here lie secrets. This is obviously an exciting release for anybody who's really into Formula 1 or just racing games in general.
By the way, it looks like they both run off Codemasters' Ego game engine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, okay.
So we already have experience with Grid Autosport, and that works pretty well.
According to Telly's link, it looks like Formula 1 2015 is not on the same engine.
Well, I guess it's probably just an upgraded version, and that's why.
Yeah, 3.0 versus 2.0, yeah.
But it's a descendant of the same engine. So that probably helped with their porting work, when they've already been familiar with the previous version of the codebase.
I guess F1 kind of got some mixed reviews from people that have played a lot of those similar games. I guess we don't have very many examples on Linux, so take what we can get, but it's certainly probably the first of that kind of serious racing sim on Linux. Yeah,
it's probably a little bit more serious than Grid Autosport, and it's obviously very focused. I mean, there's a little bit more of the management, I believe, in this, maybe not. I could be completely wrong with that. But there's at least more of like focusing on your team if you're playing the single player. And another cool thing about this is the F1 2015 game includes the 2014 season as well. So you get the whole other class of cars. Well, not completely different, but a lot of changes were made in the regulations between 14 and 15. So you get both styles of cars.
And just a warning, I hear you, if you are racing with John Drinkwater, then just try to stay off the track, because he's probably going to go the wrong way.
Yes, he did say that. This is one that I probably would have picked up already, except that Vive was not cheap.
Yeah. Maybe you can get Feral to support the Vive. Be the car.
And maybe with future games, that wouldn't be surprising, but right now, it's not even ready for Linux, so that doesn't exactly work. And, as Telly mentioned in the chat, right now, the port only officially supports NVIDIA drivers, but they are working on helping the Mesa developers get support where it's needed. I know that they had some issues with compute shaders in the Mesa drivers, even with the latest Git versions.
And that's been the same with Grid too, right?
I'm not quite sure about that. But there are a lot of features that are currently staged for Mesa, so it wouldn't be surprising to me if this is resolved fairly soon.
Oh, yeah, Tilly's link says that Grid will work with Mesa, but this game needs slightly newer OpenGL features, so...
Okay, that makes sense.
They're still trying to work to get those implemented.
Here's a release where we were somewhat expecting after some testing that we mentioned in the previous cast. Atari Vault has received a Linux port. So, there's a whole slew of old Atari games that now have networked multiplayer on Linux.
I certainly played a lot of Atari back in the day. I can't say I'm super excited about reliving too many of those memories after how far we've come, but it's definitely cool to look back once in a while, see the differences.
I need to try to find a CRT somewhere. I think I sold my last one.
I have one sit in the closet, but I guess I am in Europe.
So Simutrans is now on Steam, which is interesting. Kind of a transport tycoon style game.
And open source.
I haven't played that one for quite a while, but they definitely did an interesting take on it where things seemed a little more networked together and you could do some more advanced routing maneuvers and things. But very much a different game than, say, Open Transport Tycoon, which is, I think, still a little more accessible. But that one's not on Steam, so maybe someday.
Yeah, it is cool to have these games coming to Steam in these open source projects, not only games. And just the potential to reach new users is pretty interesting to me, especially those on other platforms. And not everybody has a repository that has all the open source games on them where they can easily download it. In other management sim games, Motorsport Manager has been announced with Windows, Mac, and Linux, and the version that they're porting right now is only a mobile game. And don't let that scare you, because the video that they're showing off, it does not look like they're skimping at all on the port. It definitely has the depth and the shiny graphics of a full PC game. I know MoHero has sunk a lot of time into a much older Motorsport Manager, and is pretty excited for this release, which they have said will be in September of 2016.
So that's not racing really at all, it's just managing like a crew pit?
Right. This is managing your team and managing the advancements that you make on all the parts.
Yeah. Could be interesting.
You know, like, I guess maybe there's research in there or something. And I think maybe you can even design your own Formula 1 car racer thing. And I guess they can't use the name Formula 1, they're not licensed, but basically it's Formula 1 team management and such. So you can think of it as an equivalent to maybe Football Manager or Out of the Park Baseball.
Yeah. So, Savage Resurrection is coming out. They've got a new trailer up. And they did jump into early access on Steam for the Windows version, but it does look like the Linux version is going to be a while. They want to just focus on working on the core game mechanics first. And they posted an update saying that sadly Unreal 4 is not quite up to par as far as feature set with Windows, so they still plan to do it. It's just going to take a little longer, so they're just letting everybody know, which still excited to see that when it finally gets out.
And it's nice to have the confirmation that Linux is something that they're going to do.
Yeah, S2 Games has supported Linux for pretty much every game they've done, so I don't expect them to fall back on that at all.
Yeah. Right, it's not surprising at all, but before we were just like, oh look, they announced a new game that'll probably be on Linux. And now it's clear.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think this is the first time they've really done kind of an early access. I mean, they've done betas of their previous games, but that's not quite the same thing as taking the risk of early access. Yeah,
Steam's early access is different, and the trailer is really cool. If you're familiar with the series, the gameplay looks much closer to Savage 1.
Yeah, so they said they're basically going to take the same mechanics of Savage 1, same kind of unit structures and things, and try to implement that as best they can, and then from there they might expand on it. But for now, that's their goal, is to basically recreate the original.
Well, they have already shown off some new units.
Yeah, but it's interesting that it's all Unreal 4, so this is a very different engine than what they had originally. But
yeah,
definitely looks very pretty.
Oh yes, it's shiny.
So Tomb Raider just had a new patch 1.1.1 with bug fixes and performance improvements. I was playing this earlier today. I think it runs just fine.
I've heard from some people that when they initially played the port, they were a little bit disappointed with the performance, but it was still playable. But after this release, it's at what they expected, approximately, for the performance.
Yeah, I heard the original release, like, it ran fine for most areas, and then you get into some new area and it would open up and then it would start getting choppy, and so I guess they fixed that now.
Yeah, and I also know that there's a pretty big bug that they fixed where some people who were using exclusively also for their audio subsystem were not able to hear any sound once they were in the game, and that is now fixed.
Nice. Yeah, it's cool that they're willing to do that, even though technically I suppose they only really support SteamOS and maybe Ubuntu, but
right.
Even though, the target platforms probably will always have Pulse Audio, that they're still willing to look at issues like that for other systems.
I know a lot of Linux users will be a little bit upset because they feel like they're not being supported well, which is understandable, but they do put forth the effort to support something other than what they do officially. Chaos Reborn, which is a fantasy tactics game, sort of similar to XCOM, has been updated with cooperative gameplay. So now you can join people online, you can play against bots, or however you want it to be set up. They definitely made the multiplayer a little bit more flexible. And also included in this update a in-game friend system to make it easier to set that stuff up.
Sword Coast Legends just got an expansion for free for people who already own the game, and I guess new people. It features a new campaign, new Dungeon Master objects. You can play as Tieflings and Warlocks. And apparently you get to play alongside everyone's favorite scimitar-wielding Dark Elf. I still have the game installed, so I might try that later tonight.
Yeah, and I've been looking forward to it, and it looks pretty cool in adding a new race and a new class, as well as a whole new campaign, and yeah, that stuff is just cool. And I really want to get into messing around with the Dungeon Master of that, which I have done a little bit, just experimenting, and having new objects is always nice.
Maybe sometime we should do an event where we play Dungeon Master modules people have made.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
If we get enough people actually making them and willing to play, at least.
Right. Well, maybe we'll toss that around the community and see what people think. Continuing the theme of free updates, Ark Survival Evolved has a new map called The Center, which originally was made by a community member, but is now being made into what they say is an official mod, included with the game. So it is truly a mod because it has its own stats, like you can switch between that and the core game, but for the most part it's the same game, just with a whole new environment. I believe it's about the same size as the map that comes with Ark and the standard map, but it has a lot of very different terrain. There's bigger caves and lava and some other more fantastic things.
And Unreal Tournament. Well, is that considered Unreal Tournament 4 or just Unreal Tournament? I don't know. But the new one has a...
yeah, Unreal Tournament 4.
Okay, it has a new map they finished, which is cool, because I think they only had the one other one that actually looked like a completed map, so...
Right, not like white boxed.
Yeah. So hopefully that's included in the new Linux release. I don't know. They've had issues with not having a launcher for Linux, and that's made it difficult to get some of the maps easily.
And it's pretty cool. If you look at the announcement that they made, they have side-by-side pictures that you can compare what it looked like and what it does now, like from the same exact camera angle.
Yeah.
It has a scrubber on it, so you can actually slide it back and forth and see like the original white box, and then the fully detailed, like, completed map, which is pretty fancy.
I can't wait for computers just to have buttons to do that automatically, so all you have to design is the really simple thing, and it will just make the awesome one.
One day.
But for now, we still need artists.
Machine learning might be achieving that eventually. Yeah, but it is cool. And this map, as indicated by the name, it's sort of a town that's underground, like, dark, and, well, look at the pictures. It's cool. Or just download it. Try the game. And to close our general gaming news, Goat Simulator has a new DLC called Waste of Space, which, as with all their other DLCs, it has a specific theme. This one being space games and space franchises, so makes fun of like Star Wars and Star Trek and the many big space games that have had Kickstarters or crowdfunding campaigns in general, like Star Citizen. And as always, it's hilarious, at least looking from the trailer.
Yeah, I think they take themselves so seriously with having a game called Waste of Space.
Well, with Goat Simulator, the real expansion was the friends you made along the way.
Yes.
Do we have anything on crowdfunding?
No. Because the Pebble isn't gaming related.
No, I think most of the the really interesting ones, like Overlord, have come and gone, and still looking forward to stuff like that coming out. So I think that'll do it.
Alright. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you have feedback, you can email us at cast@steamlug.org. You can join the conversations we have on IRC on irc.freenode.net, the channel #SteamLUG.
#SteamLUG.
#SteamLUG. There's so many different ways we could call that.
And then on Twitter, Google+, and YouTube, SteamLUG is SteamLUG.
At SteamLUG plus SteamLUG, SteamLUG, SteamLUG. So easy.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And we just joined a public server. We had some issues.
Yeah, it was nice to see that stuff getting fixed. So, there's been some Steam and Valve news, huh? Steam survey stats? What's that all about?
No, not applicable. Skip those.
Oh.
Slam. Alright.